Well, we're going to try this again. It's been 4 times. Since technology and me do not mix here, people. Apparently, there was some kind of Facebook update that I needed to put on the phone. I can see people are watching now, so that is a good thing. Some kind of Facebook update on the phone that I needed to get for, which is weird. I mean, I just used this thing yesterday. I used the live stream thing yesterday when I was at SeaWorld, and everything was fine. But of course, you know, today, like, oh, you got to update this thing for the Facebook thing. Whatever. So anyway, welcome everybody to the first HHN Chatcast of the season. We're starting off really good today. It's taking me about, what, a half hour to figure this mess out? Nah, 35 minutes. But anyway, so I'm going to start this over like, hi. So I'm going to start this over like nothing happens, and we're just going to continue on and go. I'm going to go right into the first topic, which is 5 years, HHN Legacy. This is the 5th year, 5 years, 5th anniversary of HHN Legacy. I started this shindig thing 5 years ago, and I am continuing on here, even with all these freaking tech issues. I started this back in 2012. It's 2017. We still have the same freaking tech problems that I had back then. Technology hates me. But yeah, so I've been doing this 5 years now, guys, and I just wanted to thank everyone there, everyone watching, everyone that watches this later, whatever. Thanks for sticking around. Thanks for sticking with me. If you are new to me and don't really know how I operate, I'm a nice guy. You know, at least I think I am. I might be a little opinionated here and there, but I'm not afraid to give my honest views on things. I'm not afraid to sugarcoat things. I'm not afraid to let loose on something if I feel that something is not good, something is not up to par. I've been doing that since day one, and I will continue doing that for as long as I do this. That is just how I operate. I'm not one of these guys that goes around and begs for likes or for people to subscribe or things of that nature. I like people to find me organically. People, you know, whether you stumble across a video of mine or stumble across my Twitter feed or my Facebook page or a photo that I took from Halloween Horror Nights 5 years ago, cool, please, and thank you, you know. But I'm not one of those that's going to sort of shove in your face to, you know, to like, comment, subscribe, and that's not how I operate. So, and I pride myself on that. I pride myself on not whoring myself out to people, you know, which there's nothing wrong with that. You know, people, you know, YouTube now is that's how people make their living. So, you know, that's, you know, it is what it is. But I am not one of those guys. I do have a job outside of what I do now. I actually do work for the media. I will not say which station I work for, but I do work for one of the local news stations in town. You know, so it is what it is. But anyway, enough about that. Thank you, and we are going to move on. One thing I did want to mention before I move on, which I'll get into more detail about later, is when I first started, I was doing YouTube videos. First thing I did was a YouTube video. I did a YouTube speculation video about the event that year. I do not do speculation videos anymore, and I'll get into why a little bit later on. But back then, there weren't a whole lot of people doing it. You know, you had the you know, the sort of quintessential people who were around, you know, that have been doing it for a long time. But back then, back in 2012, it was not as prominent as it is today. Now there's a plethora of people all over the interwebs that are doing Halloween Horror Nights speculation videos, Halloween Horror Nights reviews, this and that, blah, blah, blah things. And honestly, I don't have, with my job and stuff, I don't have the time anymore to sit there and make a YouTube video and, you know, edit and prepare. And just doing this took me 35 minutes to get the freaking stream to work properly. I don't have time for that anymore. You know, but other people, you know, there's plenty of other people out there that make speculation. I'll get into why I don't do it anymore a little bit later, but yeah, but now there's all sorts of people. So all sorts of, the market is flooded in terms of YouTube, you know, speculation, Horror Nights videos and whatnot. So what I like to do is I like to just talk about, these days, talk about my experiences and talk about, you know, my experience with the event. And because I've been going, this will be my 18th year in a row. I started going in 2000, 17 years. So, no, 18 years. So this will be my 18th year in a row going to the event. So I've been going to the event a long time. Obviously, there have been a lot of people that have been going to the event a lot longer than I have. More specifically, people that have started going, started back when the event first started. But I've been going for a long time. So I like to talk about my feelings, my thoughts, about things. Not necessarily speculation, because that's a question that I got asked a lot this year about speculation videos. So, what is Halloween Horror Nights? Hi, Jack. I finally got the damn thing to work. You know me. Technology hates me. So, but we're finally here. It only took me 40 minutes to get the freaking Facebook feed to work. But anyway, what is Halloween Horror Nights? That's very funny. No, what was I saying? Speculation videos. Yes, I don't do that anymore. I don't do speculation videos. But anyway, and I'll explain why in a minute. But let's get into the actual Halloween Horror Nights information. Last year when I did the first Chatcast, I had a lot more stuff to talk about. I had a couple of houses. I had Chance. So there's a lot more. It was more juicy nuggets, if you will, to talk about. This year, I don't have that much. So this is going to be probably a very short Chatcast. Granted, if the feed decides to keep going for the 45 minutes that I do this, or less. I try to keep these to about an hour. If I didn't say that before, I don't like to go over an hour. I don't like to go, longer than that because it gets boring. And I'm a boring person. I have this stuff behind me. I'm a boring person. It is what it is. So anyway, we'll talk about what we do know. So American Horror Story. I said last year with the American Horror Story house last year, I gave up on the show. I sort of stopped watching American Horror Story for a couple of reasons. One, because I got rid of my cable, so I wasn't able to. I watched Freak Show, and then right after. God, we're gonna keep Michael Bay out of this conversation today. But anyway, I stopped watching the show soon after Freak Show because I cut my cable, so I wasn't able to watch Hotel after that, and I did not watch Hotel until well after the event last year, until it came on Netflix, and I was able to catch up on the show, which I hated. I hated Hotel. I couldn't even finish it. I got about 4 or 5 episodes in, and I couldn't do it. So with that being said, I have not seen Roanoke, so I don't know anything about that season. I don't know what the season's about. I don't know. I just don't know anything about it. So obviously this year we have Roanoke, we have Asylum, and we have Coven. In terms of the show, I stopped watching the show really with Coven. I checked out. Coven, for me, is the worst by far. Even with the horrible Hotel, I would still sit through all of Hotel if somebody forced me than to sit through all of Coven again. Coven was such a bad season. I get that Coven has its peeps. I get that that Coven has its people love that season of the show. I don't know why, but people love that season. I sort of checked out at that point. I did watch Freak Show, but it is what it is. So I am not as excited or thrilled when it comes to American Horror Story this year, although Asylum is hands down my favorite season of American Horror Story. That is, without a doubt, 100%. I love that season. So I'm looking forward to what they do with Coven. I'm sorry, not Coven. I hate Coven. With Asylum. Because it is my favorite of the American Horror Story seasons. But other than that, couple that with the fact that I honestly was not a huge fan of the house last year. I had problems with the American Horror Story house. Yes, it looked good. Like the sets were good. The production design was good. But the house had no flow for me. The house had no flow. The house had no energy. It wasn't scary for me. There was no, there was no vibe in that house. It was just, it felt, for lack of a better term, dead. And the first couple times that we actually went through American Horror Story, it was empty. There weren't a whole lot of actors in there either. It took a couple of tries going through the house. So couple that with it's a huge house in terms of scale. So a lot of room to move around in that house. And when you depopulate it with less actors, I know, oh, it had, people are going to say, but it had the biggest cast. Yeah, but, let's say for sake of argument, it was a cast change, which I know the couple times that I went through the house, they were not going through a cast change. They were just, the actors were just not there. You're basically walking through this, it's pretty, but there's nothing going on. There's nothing happening. There's no scares. There's no this and that, blah, blah, blah. So yes, it looked pretty. It looked good. But for me, the house just didn't work. It didn't flow. There was no flow to the house. There was no energy to the house. So couple that with, my sort of detachment these days of the American Horror Story show. I'm not exactly looking forward to the house this year. It'll probably look good. We know that. But for me, there's more to Horror Nights than set design. I love the set design that they do in the houses. I have no problem with the set design. But there's more to it. It's, it is about energy. It is about atmosphere. It is about how the actors approach you in terms of their scare methods. It's everything all combined. So if one thing is firing on all cylinders, not everything else has to be firing on all cylinders, but everything else should sort of complement what is going on around you in the environment. And for me, last year's American Horror Story didn't do that. And it never did that for me. I went, if Jack is still watching, I mean, we must have done, Jack, I'm not sure if you're still watching, but I don't know how many times we went through American Horror Story last year, but we went through quite a few times. And every time we went through the house, nothing really changed for me. I mean, it just was sort of blah for me. So I'm not totally looking forward to the house, even though I love Asylum. I can't wait to see what they do with Asylum in the house. It's like the only thing I'm looking forward to in terms of American Horror Story this year. And of course, now we know, at least for Hollywood, Murdy addressed this the other day after they announced Roanoke, solely Roanoke over there, that they're saving other seasons for later. We made like 20 times. Yes, we did. We made the walk back, the long trek back to yes. We did it a lot. I can't remember. I tend to go to the event as much as possible. Usually these days about 2 times a week throughout the course of the entire event. This year I might get a chance to go a little bit more. I might get a chance to go a little bit more this year than I did last year, but that's still yet to be seen. But anyway, so I went through the house a lot. So we'll put it to you that way. I'm not one of these guys either that sits there and keeps count of how many times they go into a house or whatever. But I go through the houses a lot. So for me, I don't always keep count of how many times that I do them. But I do go through them a lot. With Murdy, getting back on that thing, we know that they're only doing Roanoke, and Murdy has said that they're saving the other seasons for a later time. Now with Orlando doing, I'm going to speculate here. Look, guys, I'm speculating. With Orlando doing the 3 seasons this year, it's entirely possible because the one night we hit American Horror Story 3 times, and every other house, yes. But anyway, so speculating here, guys. With Murdy's comments about them saving seasons, and Universal Orlando now saying, or having the 3 seasons that they have this year, it is entirely possible that as we move forward in the future, that Universal and Horror Nights only do 1 season. So now we move. They've covered the past So this isn't like a Walking Dead situation where they have to catch up, to the current season. They've already done them. So, it's not like one season every year. They've already done them. So they've already covered them. They've already done them. So now they can do, they can go ahead and do, one season, so that's where I foresee, depending on, what they do in the future, that's where I foresee, I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted. That's where I foresee the American Horror Story property going in the future, in terms of Orlando specifically, because Murdy is now saying that they're going to save the other seasons for later. So I can see that Orlando would do, depending on how long they have a contract for, doing, like when the current season is over, doing, I don't know when the current season starts, probably sometime around Halloween. So when the current season is over, next year you do the previous season. So it becomes one season houses as opposed to this mega, cram 3 seasons into one thing, which could be, beneficial, because then you don't have to, you don't really have to worry, about things becoming so overloaded, because now you're concentrating on one specific season as opposed to, like I said, cramming 3 different things into one house. I mean, of course, Horror Nights in Orlando has done it before, but doesn't necessarily mean that they have to do that all the time. It might be nice to have one thing settle down, really concentrate on one aspect instead of trying to, force 3 seasons into one house. I don't know. That's kind of where I foresee this going, especially after Murdy's comments. Or Hollywood could just be like, yeah, we're going to save them, and Orlando would just move on. But I don't see that happening in the near future. Next couple years, I kind of foresee that that's where Orlando's going to go, but it's just me. So I think that about covers American Horror Story. So we're going to move on to The Shining. I said in my Talking Head video that about The Shining after it was announced. I am not one of these people that sort of hold The Shining so close to the heart. I like The Shining. I'm not one of these people that consider it one of the best horror films ever made. I'm not exactly sure why. Well, there is a reason why, I think. When I was in film school, I went to 2 different film schools, actually. One of the film schools that I was in, we had to study The Shining, and we had to study The Shining in great detail. And I'm talking, we studied for a week. We broke down every little aspect of that film. We analyzed everything from the lighting to the carpets in the hotels. Like, we analyzed the shit out of that film. We basically picked the bone clean on Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. So there probably is some subconscious thing in the back of my head that's just sick of The Shining, and I've never recovered from it. I have not seen or did not see The Shining for well over 15 years. After I got out of film school, I never watched it again. So I've been out of film school 16 years now, something like that. No, 10 years, 13 years. Yeah, 15. I don't know. 15, 16, 13 years, right? So since I left film school, I had not seen it. So in 13 years, I refused to watch it. I recently went back and saw it. It's been streaming on Netflix. So I was home one day and I, turned it on and I watched it. It's a good movie. I'm not, knocking the film or anything like that. I am also a huge fan of the book, which I know this year specifically, there were a lot of Horror Nights fans, especially, who are massive Stephen King fans. And if you are not aware, Stephen King does not like his, refuses to have his properties, his books, be turned into any kind of haunts. He doesn't like doing that. Horror Nights has tried repeatedly to get Stephen King to come on board to do something. and he constantly rejects them. I knew The Shining was coming in December. January is when I was told it was coming. And the first question that I had, is this based on the book or is this the movie? Because I knew that if they got the film, they were not, Stephen King was going to have nothing to do with it, because he notoriously hates that film. He doesn't like Stanley Kubrick's version of his book. He's on record as saying so. And to be quite honest with you, Stephen King did not have a whole lot of pull in terms of the Shining film. In the early days of Stephen King adaptations, Stephen King had very little to do with those adaptations. So something like Carrie or something like The Shining, Stephen King was not as in control, I guess would be the word that I would, words that I would use for that. Later on in his career, he was able to get more and more control over his stuff that was being turned into films and miniseries and things like that. Back then, not so much. So when it came to that, I knew that if they got the film, all they had to do was basically go to Warner Brothers, and with them already having a good working relationship with the studio because of Harry Potter, I was, it was like, well, they can work it out. This is not going to be a situation where, they were going to have trouble because Stephen King was going to, no, because Stephen King had a very little pull in terms of getting this property. The question then came up later on was, why didn't they do this before? If it was that easy to get The Shining, why didn't they do this before? Well, a couple of reasons. One, because they were trying to get King on board, and it just didn't happen. And they were probably looking more to do King's version. They wanted that version with Stephen King on board to do the house, as opposed to just doing Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. Even though Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, I think his version of The Shining is sort of outlived, not outlived, but is much more revered these days, I guess you could say, than King's book. Even though the book is fantastic. If you've never read The Shining, I have not read the sequel. Is it Dr. Sleep? Is that what it's called? I have not gotten around to reading the sequel. So I can't remember if I mentioned this on this version of the Chatcast or one that I started earlier. But I sort of fell off, like I said, with Stephen King's later work. I nitpicked some of his stuff later on. So I read Cell, I read Under the Dome, I read that. 11/22/63, I read parts of that. I tried to read The Dark Tower, but I just could not get into The Dark Tower. The movie I think looks good, but I was not did not get into The Dark Tower as much as, because I know people love that series. I know people that aren't Stephen King fans that love The Dark Tower, and he's like, oh, you should read this or whatever. And yeah, so I tried and I couldn't get through it. But yeah, so that's probably why. That's probably why they didn't try to attack. And I'm not sure they would have even done The Shining if they didn't do The Exorcist last year. The Exorcist was kind of a play to see if they can pull something like that off, because The Shining is obviously a much easier sort of property to adapt. There's a lot more environments, even though the big chunk of the movie takes place in one place. There's a lot more environments around the hotel that you can do to change up for variety and whatnot. However, The Shining is a lot more psychological in terms of its horror. It's not necessarily boo scares and stuff like that. It's much more visceral in terms of its horror, which is tough, But they were able, in my opinion, to pull it off with The Exorcist. The Exorcist was not... I know it's a house that people either liked or hated. It was one of those, there was no in between. You either like the house or you hate it. I happen to like the house, despite its faults. I thought it was good to a fault. There was stuff in there that I thought worked really well, and other stuff that I thought did not work well. but the overall experience, I thought, was nicely done. There was atmosphere. The sets were cool. I liked the sort of descent into the madness of Reagan. I thought that was handled very well. I liked the effects in the house. I got scared quite a bit in that house. The Reagans, the actresses who played, or actors, I don't know, who played the Reagans, I thought did a really good job. They did a really good job of trying to scare you with as little as possible. You know, whether it's hiding behind, you know, mattresses or coming out of boo holes or whatever. Like they made the best out of a minimal situation, and I think that they pulled it off. And The Exorcist, like I was saying, was a little bit is more akin to The Shining in terms of it's not boo scares, it's more psychological, and there's some imagery and stuff involved. So I'm not sure if they would have even attempted The Shining in the past had The Exorcist had they not done The Exorcist. I think that was kind of a sort of a leaping off point to see if they can pull it off. And I think they pulled it off. I think they, you know, last year, like I said, it's a house that people either love or hate. I know people that hate it. I know people that really love it. So there really is no in between with that house. But I thought they pulled it off well. Yeah, so not also a whole lot to talk about. I did want to, that covers the houses, because we don't have any real information to talk about, which when I talked a little bit before about speculating, I don't speculate anymore. And I wanted to talk about that. I got a lot of questions, this year about why I don't do speculation videos as much as I used to. Because way back when I first started, I used to do them all the time. And it's a mixture of things. It's not just because I don't have the time to do them. I may or may not have information. And I'm always constantly on edge about expelling that information on camera. You know, about, playing my cards, as it were, playing my hand, showing my hand, as it were. So it gets harder and harder for me to restrain myself sometimes to let loose what I may or may not know. So I tell people all the time, there are plenty of people on the internet who do speculation videos, and if you enjoy watching speculation videos, those guys will know. They do a fine job on their own. But I refuse to do them these days because I am very afraid of accidentally saying something, because I don't like to spoil things for people. Let's put it to you that way. Like, it's actually fun for me when I, read stuff on the internet, with all this stuff that's coming out, whether it's, talk about leaked lists and things like that. Like, I like sort of what's the phrase? Sadistic wonderment? Is that what they're using these days? I like to follow what people are saying, because some of it is really wrong, some of it's really spot on, and it's fun for me to go through. Like a little troll that I am, I guess, to see if they're what they're saying. I do like that aspect of it, that's just the way it is. So I don't do speculation videos anymore for that reason. I do the My Talking Heads because, like I said, I like to talk about my experiences and have a conversation about about Halloween Horror Nights. So that's what I like to do. I don't I don't like to spoil things for people. I don't like to give clues. I know some people out there like to give hints or drop clues or things of that nature. I don't like to do that either. I did that one year, and I will never do it again because that year specifically too, a lot of stuff changed. So by the time you put out, one thing, something else could have changed. Because things change every year, including this year. There's been a couple. There will be a couple of changes this year that I'm sure, will surprise some people. But, it happens all the time. Changes and things, the event, something could be one day and then taken the next day. So I don't like to do that. I don't like to do that anymore. I enjoy talking about it, but I don't like to do speculation, and I don't like to spill the beans, because I know that there's people out there that like to spill the beans, and I don't like to do that, and I don't want to do it accidentally either, which I've come close to a couple times. If you watch some of my Talking Head videos, there are a couple times where I've almost spilled beans in the past, and I have to stop myself. So I don't like to do that. But like I said, there's plenty of people on the internet who do speculation videos, and you can go watch their stuff. So I think that about covers it. We of course started this a little bit late. There's not a whole lot to talk about. Looking at my notes here, there's not anything else that the next Chatcast, because I want stuff to talk about, it'll probably be sometime after the full reveal. So probably sometime at the end of August, before the event starts. That'll probably be the next one. There will be my talking heads and stuff like that when things are announced. And you could always follow the blog or whatever. But there's no more of these until I have more stuff to talk about. And I'm pretty sure, if I was a betting man, that we're going to get something soon. Murdy, I think, hinted at a announcement over there in Hollywood coming sometime in July. I think Orlando might have something before that. It doesn't necessarily have to be a house; it could be something else. But I think they'll have something else before that. But yeah, that's it, guys. My dad is here, home as well. That's the other thing is, if you heard all that noise, they're in the next room watching Get Out. I've already seen it. It's a great film. I saw it in the theaters, but they hadn't seen it yet. My dad is actually home. For those of you that don't know, don't follow me or whatever, a couple weeks ago I had to take my dad to the hospital, and he had a pacemaker put in. So he's been, he works in South Florida, so he's been staying up here for the time being. So my sister is here as well, and they were watching Get Out because they had not seen it. So they're here. My dad is actually working, and I'm using my computer, but he needs my computer to work as well. So because this has actually gone over because of all the false starts and stuff, I think I'm going to cut it short here because there's not a whole lot else that I want to talk about. Other than I covered the two houses. I thanked you all because, again, 5 years doing this. And I'm going to keep going. I know we've had some bumps in the road. Specifically, some bad decisions that were made. Jack, if you were watching. But I'm going to keep doing this. I love to do this. And like I said before, I think I'm a nice guy. There are some people out there that don't like me, and it doesn't bother me. Keep your enemies close, I guess, is a good term to use. But yeah, I just like talking about the event, guys, and I like and I appreciate everyone that has stuck with me these past 5 years. And we're gonna keep going, even when Facebook Live doesn't like to fucking work. We're gonna keep going. Which I'm thinking about switching the Chatcast to YouTube. Although I like the freeing, being able to use my phone, and I've tried the Chatcast before on YouTube, which I had to. The initial inception of this was supposed to be on YouTube, and the YouTube didn't work, so I moved it to Facebook because it was much easier and it worked better. I might switch these to YouTube sometime in the future, but I am not sure. But the next, like I said, the next Chatcast will be sometime after the full reveal. But until then, look out for the My Talking Heads. And you can always follow me on Twitter. I know I said I don't plug my shit, but there you go. Follow me on Twitter if you want to. But anyway, guys, that's it. Thanks for watching. Sorry about the technical issues at the beginning. And I'll talk to you guys later.